Morning News with Dave Ross. Good morning. I'm Colleen O'Brien, and we've heard you talking about them. Fauci emails. You've texted us. What about the Fauci emails? So we went right to the source, Washington Post reporter who obtained 866 pages of emails from Dr. Anthony Fauci in April and March of last year. So really at the beginning of the pandemic. And that reporter is Yasmin Abu Talib. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Obviously, everybody wants the inside scoop on what was happening in the White House between President Trump and Anthony Fauci. Why these 2 months of emails, though?
Well, that was really the point where the pandemic was starting to pick up in the United States. That's when the national shutdown first went into effect in mid-March. And then in April, of course, is when you saw this Trump versus Fauci dynamic really emerge. They were standing together at a lot of these daily White House press briefings. Dr. Fauci rose to worldwide fame in that time period because he was willing to contradict the president on whether hydroxychloroquine worked, the drug that the president was pushing at the time, whether the virus was going to disappear like the president wanted, whether it was safe to reopen or not. He was the one most openly contradicting and at odds with Trump at that time. And so we thought this was the point where he was really rising in prominence. The tensions with the president were starting to become much more pronounced and exacerbated. So we wanted to see if the emails offered any new insight into that.
And what did they show you?
Well, I think Dr. Fauci's been a government employee for a long time, so he knows better than to put anything too revealing or private in email. You can tell he's very careful in these emails, probably well aware that people like us and others might request them. But you do see how much he's getting flooded with requests from everyone, from strangers, from other government employees, either within NIH or at other agencies, from old colleagues and associates. I think it really illustrates the level of confusion there was in the country at that time, because everyone is writing him asking, can I get on a flight? Is this actually safe? Please keep standing up to the president. Please keep speaking truth to power. There are some kind of funny emails in there too. People are drawing these cartoon superhero images of him. And you don't see him directly criticize the president or anyone in the White House in these emails. You actually see him still exchanging notes with them. They're still working together. But I think it's remarkable to see just how so much of the country was relying on one single person. And then in the same vein, I think we see now with the release of the emails, he's a hero to some people and the person that they felt they could rely on. And he's a complete villain and antichrist to another group of people. I mean, he's become this really, really polarizing figure.
Yeah. What is it about the release of the emails? Because you read and a colleague read through all of them. And that's what I see, too, from some of our listeners who think the emails prove that Fauci was up to no good. But I didn't see any of that in your reporting.
And I don't think that's reflected in the emails. BuzzFeed News obtained even more emails and put them all online on the same day that we did. They obtained about 3,600 pages of his emails. And what happened is people, I think, are often seeing these emails and jumping to conclusions without understanding the context around them. So there was one email in the pages of emails that BuzzFeed published where there's a discussion about gain of function research. And it's Dr. Fauci exchanging emails with a respected infectious disease researcher about whether the virus has any attributes of gain of function research. It turns out a couple of days after that email exchange, the researcher comes to the conclusion that no, there's no way this virus could have been engineered. This doesn't look to be indicative of gain of function email. But I think a lot of people are seizing on that and saying, see, he knew and he hid it from us, when that's not the case. It was a question they were exploring and they wanted the answer to. But the widespread theory and the notion that most scientists had last year about the origins of the virus was that it jumped from an animal to humans. They always held out the possibility that it could be a lab leak, but they thought it was unlikely. But I think because of that, a lot of people are saying Fauci hid information from the public, whereas I don't think that's what that email shows.
And, you know, there are some interesting exchanges in there, too, from a military professional telling Fauci, you know, hey, I support you. Just cover your six, which means cover your back. Of course, that's going to jump out and grab you. But since you weeded through all 866 pages of these emails, what to you was the most interesting part about his email exchanges?
That's a great question. I think it was really interesting that him and George Gao, the head of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, despite this war of words that was escalating at that time last year between President Trump and President Xi Jinping of China, where Trump was calling it the China virus and was really switching tack to blaming China for all of this and kind of trying to distract from his administration's handling of it, that these two scientists who have known each other for a long time are trying to maintain these delicate ties. They're kind of independent of the political brawl, just checking in on each other. George Gao says to him, I heard that there are some threats against you. I hope this is fake and I hope that you're okay. He's trying to clear the air after an interview where he said the US was making a mistake by not having people wear masks. I thought that was really interesting. And I thought just the degree to which Dr. Fauci tried to respond to emails from people all over the world and strangers answering their questions, despite everything he was dealing with, was kind of compelling too.
I would love to know his secret of staying so calm and so zen, because, you never see him get one way or the other, get angry or extremely. He just stays even. And I would love to know his secret. You don't hear from Fauci much these days. What is he up to?
Well, he's actually done a few interviews in the last few days about the emails, and he is, very, very calm and all of that. But you can tell it's agitating, just how much speculation and conspiracy theories have kind of been swirling around the emails and what he knew when and whether he was hiding things. You can see that, he feels that there is nothing incriminating in these emails, that people are taking them out of context, that it's very frustrating for him. But I think other than that, he's focused on the country's vaccination campaign, trying to build trust in the vaccine. I think there is some concern that this focus on him and what he knew and if he's hiding information does undermine trust in public health professionals and confidence in the vaccine, especially if he's the one delivering that message. But this is obviously there's much less drama for him this year in terms of his relationship with the administration. So he's not
Sure.
quite as front and center as the time period we were looking at last year.
Yeah, he certainly got a crash course in how to be a public figure for sure. So, 866 pages of emails. We know BuzzFeed has 3,600 pages. What are you after next?
I mean, we have to cover this administration's response and, their efforts to get the country vaccinated and meet their goals. It's looking more and more difficult for President Biden to meet his July 4th vaccination goals. And of course, we're continuing to report really aggressively on the origins of the virus, what U.S. intelligence agencies and the White House do and do not know about it, how robust or not the information is, and whether there is new information to be gleaned from that. Less focused on whether there was a conspiracy to cover things up, but more just really trying to find out, what does the U.S. know and not know? Are we ever going to get answers to some of these questions, and why or why not?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. From the Washington Post, reporter Yasmin Abu Taleb. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
So after all those emails, it turns out that Dr. Fauci is exactly what he appeared to be.
Yeah.
A scientist who is trying to do his best to figure out where it came from and how to stop it.
And help people. I mean, the number of emails he responded to, even after midnight, people peppering him with questions like, can I get on an airplane? He will answer that. So, I suppose the journalists will keep digging. But so far, he is as he appears.
I mean, that's their job to dig through it. But the agenda for some of them was to find some sort of smoking gun somewhere where he was in a lab with his Chinese counterpart cooking up a virus to unleash on the world.
So he could be on the cover of Vogue.
Yeah, like he cares about that. It is.